That's a great word to use, Kendra. Is we really tried to make it more of a personal experience for the kiddos, even if it was a daily message.
Feeling like we were making even better relationships with some of these kids in that setting.
We connect the mind and the body and how it works together, and we start teaching these kiddos at an earlier age. We can make our profession so much more valuable.
Is we should provide them that positive experience that we can help change some mindsets.
So many opportunities to teach life lessons that have nothing to do with throwing mechanics or kicking a ball.
It's fun to reflect on how we did for distance learning, because I think when you're in the midst of it, you get kind of dragged down, and it was so depressing and isolated. It was like, oh my gosh, we did actually pull it together and do a good job.
Welcome, physical educators. This is Thinking PE.
Because Phi-Ed is more than just fun and games.
I'm Stacy Nelson.
And I'm Jamie Seneca.
And it's our goal to dig deeper beyond the activities that make your class awesome.
So buckle up and join us on this journey.
Welcome to another edition of Thinking PE. Jamie, you know what I'm thinking?
Tell us what you're thinking, Stacy.
I'm thinking logistics today, because we're actually getting a little bit of information from our uppers, our principal, and those above our principal that are making these decisions. And I've been in meetings with some of the other PE teachers in our district, and some of these fine details are starting to come down, and we're starting to really logistically think through, here's the games we can play, here's the ones we can't play because we can do this, we can't do that. So logistically, I'm thinking I got 25 to 30 kids, and I'm going to have them in a gym. How am I going to keep them apart? I'm thinking logistics all over the place. I don't know how I'm going to handle all that.
Well, I say 25 kids in a gym, that's a lot. We're going to meet Tom Becker, Kendra Moss, and Dan Ford. They're elementary physical education teachers in Carver, Minnesota, which is a southwest suburb of the Twin Cities here. And they team teach with 90 kiddos in their gym. So take your concerns and multiply them by 3.
Yeah, for sure. That's a fun conversation we have, because they have to collaborate, and they just are. That's the fun part of this conversation, that it comes out that they are great collaborators. There's no egos in the way. They're all about the kids and what's going to work. And then they use this great growth mindset that we've talked about on this podcast a lot. They're really good examples of that. And so they've got the collaboration, the growth mindset. And then what they have is they've found an ability to rely on each other's strengths. And I think it kind of just comes natural to them. I don't think they try to point this out or whatever. It just feels like it really flows with them. If somebody's good at something, they step up, and the other two let that person go. And they just really rely on each other. They collaborate, and they have this growth mindset. And I really think that's what makes them super successful.
Yeah, and that success, it comes around, it becomes student-centered. And that's the great part of it. So without further ado here, let's go ahead and we're going to meet Tom, Kendra, and Dan. Here's something funny about each one of them, and then they're going to dive right into this thing we call distance learning. So let's take a listen.
My name's Tom Becker, and I am a PE teacher at Carver Elementary. This is going to be my 16th year of teaching, and my 6th year in the Chaskachan School District. I've also taught in Richfield, Eden Prairie, and did a little bit of private school as well at a private Christian school called Chapel Hill, and actually at a private Catholic school in Waconia called St. Joe's. And that's all the public schools been elementary, and the privates were K through 8. And so I've had a little bit of public, a little bit of private, some schools with a lot of diversity, some schools with none. And now I'm at Carver L teaching with Dan and Kendra, and I love it. Love working with the team. I live in Victoria, have 2 little kids, and in my spare time, I spend a ton of time fishing, and that's me.
I am Kendra Moss. I teach at Carver Elementary. This is my 8th year of teaching. This will be my third year in the Carver School District. I was in Edina before. I did a year at Highlands Elementary and then the high school. And then I was out at East Union 2 years ago. And I have 1 year under my belt with Tom and Dan, which has been amazing.
Wow.
You're going to have to edit that out.
Yeah. My spare time, well, this summer I've been doing a lot of yoga to help my mind. Run, and I coach swimming for Chaska High School.
Well, guys, I'm Dan Ford. I'm on I was looking at some seniority things. I'm year 20, so I'm feeling quite old, minus the grays already on the face. I've spent 5 years at an Apple Valley School District, and 15 I'm on in our Eastern Carver County School District. I've had experiences all the way in the EBD side of things. That's when I first got my job, and it was in a level, back then, not anymore, but a level 4 program, a K-12 program, where it's kindergartners through seniors in high school. It was kind of known as a last chance type building. And what a great experience. It made me kind of the teacher I am today just by taking that experience. And then from there, going into, I believe I've been in four buildings and at Eastern Carver, with teaching with some of the best teachers in the world and the best administrators I've been lucky enough to work under. And this is we opened Carver 4 years. So it's my fourth year at a brand new building, working with the wonderful teachers I work with there. And in my spare time, I'm a social guy, so I like anything as social events. If it's just with friends, playing golf, boating, or refereeing, umpiring, anything to be around the kids or people. I just enjoy that. And you guys will find today, you'll see I'm kind of long-winded at times.
Refereeing, yeah. I didn't know that. So yeah, as a social person, boy, you make a couple bad calls, you'll be surrounded by a lot of people. Well, good to go. Well, before we get started and dive into this thing known as distance learning, we got to warm up our gray matter, warm up that prefrontal cortex, just like we do an instant activity or something in class. So to throw it out there, we'll start. Tom, if you just share your funniest moment, because we could all write a book, but just pick something. Share your funniest moment that you've seen as a teacher.
Well, this actually doesn't really have anything to do with the students. It has to do more with the staff.
Even better.
And I was teaching at Richfield, and it was my first teaching job. And a really good friend of mine from high school actually got me in, and I team taught with him. And I spent 3 years there. And I worked so hard at developing relationships and getting to know the kids and trying to be a positive role model. And I started a run club, a before school run club that was really successful. And I found out about 2 months before the end of the school year that a teacher was coming back, and I was going to get cut because of that. So I was really kind of devastated. I'd probably still be there. I mean, I really loved the job and the people I worked with. And so I had never done anything on preps but what I was supposed to be doing. But knowing that I wasn't going to come back, I was like, whatever. So I had a 45-minute prep button up to lunch, and so I went for a jog. And I'd never left the building without signing out or telling somebody. It's like, I'm just going to go for a jog. And I was about 10 minutes into my jog through the streets of Richfield, and a car pulls up next to me, and Mr. Becker? And there was Mr. Paulson and Mr. Roberts, the principal and assistant principal, driving a kid that had misbehaved. They're driving him home, and right past me. And I was like, "Hey guys," and they're like, "Hey," and they just kind of kept driving. I was like, "Oh no!" After 3 years, I just totally blew it, and I jogged back, and I told my buddy John, I go, "Dude, Mr. Roberts and Mr. Paulson just caught me jogging and stopped. And he's like, I said, do you think that's a big deal? And he's like, oh, I don't know. I doubt it. Well, long story short, a couple days later, my buddy John calls me in. He's like, hey, Tom, Mr. Paulson wants to see you in the office. And I go, is it, do you think it has to do with that when I went jogging? And I don't know. I guess I can't say anything. And I was like, oh, crap. And so I went down to the office and he opened the door and he goes, have a seat, Tom. And he turned and he started doing computer work for about 5 minutes and it was just dead silent. And I was like, oh, what is going on? And he goes, Tom, I'm gonna go into the next room. We're waiting for a couple people from HR, and then I'll come back and get you. And I was like, okay. And my heart was I was just sunk. I was like, oh my gosh. So I just blew it. I'm not going to get letters. I'm never going to get another job. HR's here in the conference room. About another 5 minutes, and he opened the door and he's like, all right, we're ready for you. And my wife was pregnant at the time with our first. And I went, opened the door, and half the staff was in there and went, surprise. And the whole conference table was baby shower gifts.
Oh,
The whole thing was a setup.
that's good.
Wow.
And so it was my buddy John who set up the whole thing. But he got me good. And when I read your question, I thought what? And I thought back to that, and it's a good memory. It was funny, and he got me good, but it was just heartwarming at the same time.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So
That's pretty
Oh,
wild.
cool.
yeah, it was a good setup. They got me.
That's awesome. Good sense of humor.
Well, Kendra, what do you have for us? What's a funny story from your career?
My stories are always shorter than Dan and Tom's.
Oh, jeez. The fireworks have started.
This year I saw what I thought was something on the ground over by the kids were running. They were doing, I think we had 3 classes in there. What were they doing? The pacer. And,
Yep.
I thought it was some mud. So I went and someone had stepped in it, and I peeled it off the floor, and I'm sure you guys know where I'm going with this. And I looked at it and I
No.
smelled it.
No.
And I threw it. And yeah, so that it was poop.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Oh, I
That's
never.
my poop story.
Well,
But you know what the best part of the story is?
to help the story, it gets better, you guys.
Okay,
It gets
what?
better because
Go ahead, Tom.
Well, June Johnson, our principal, so everything's videotaped. She kept it, and she makes sure that everyone sees all that footage. They'll never live it down.
More
Right up to
good
the
sense
dog.
of humor.
I'll have to connect with June and see if we can get that video.
Yeah. My daughter'd like to see that too.
Oh, fantastic.
That's something that comes up during a retirement party.
Yeah.
So, Dan, what do you have for us?
Well, I could go with several different directions with this because us three, we like to call it, the poop band, the poop. So, a lot of times the poop bandit strikes when you just never know. So many times throughout the career working with elementary kids, from and it can be anybody too. It's just a kid with special needs. It doesn't need to be, it just happens, but I'm going to go a different direction. I'm going to go where I started my career in a K-12 building. And it's a very high-end K-12 building for emotional behavior, EBD kiddos. Kind of the last chance, like I said, and I quite didn't know what I was getting into when I first took the job. Well, when I got to the interview to take the job, I was excited. I was one of maybe 4 or 5. If I had teachers out of St. Cloud, state that got an interview and had a chance to get a job. So I was all pumped up, drove down Apple Valley, walked into the door. And as I walk in, before I got the job before I started the interview, there was a kiddo, maybe kindergarten, first grade. And if you haven't seen me, I'm about 6'4", 6'5", a very muscular 240, 250. But the kiddo comes up to my waist and he sees me walk in. I'm in a shirt and tie, and they have these clay art projects in front of the office. And the kid winds up and kicks it as hard as he can. Kicks the dinosaur head right off. And of course, I'm, the talkative one. I look at the little guy and I say, "Hey, buddy, how you doing? Can I help you with something?" No idea, because I didn't see any adults. And he looks right at me with a straight eye and he says, "I'm going to rip your eyes out, shove them up your butt, so you kick the crap out of you," minus a couple F words and stuff. And I thought, interesting. And the kid started, and I just said, "Have a great day." Walked. It evidently didn't affect me because I took the job. Very first day. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wow. I think we got a wealth of experience here, Jamie. We're going to be able to pull some of this knowledge out pretty easy. I think we're going to switch gears and go into that distance learning piece. And if you kind of just think about it from a podcast standpoint of think what might be interesting, or think what might be a way to describe what you guys did. You're kind of in a unique situation, as I understand it, where you're sharing one, I'm hoping it's a fairly large space.
yeah.
And having to cooperate with each other. But the distance learning, you went from that to now do what the rest of us did. Did you, if you want to just kind of take turns describing a little bit about that, did you collaborate? Did you take roles? Did you each do your own thing? If you want to kind of just describe, kind of just ad hoc, however you want to do it, just throw things out there that you think might be interesting.
Well, in the distant learning piece with our building and with our team, I think, and me personally, it helped. I think it's going to make me a better teacher. It helped me be with more organization, getting some of that technology piece in, and we really took advantage of things that we've never used before in our careers. The Google Classrooms, the videos. And I can see ourselves using this obviously in the future at some point, but we did a very nice job as a unit of 3, dividing and conquering, really taking up roles and telling, strengths and weaknesses, things like that. And in the long run, we just realized the kids just want to see faces too. So we really did a great job with that, I thought. And Tom and Kendra, my coworkers, really grabbed that. And I think and especially Kendra's, it's a strength of hers is being in front of that technology piece and kind of holding Tom and ours hand. And it's really improved our teaching ability too. So
cool.
I think what we did and made successful is that divide and conquer, really get out the roles. And I'm sure Kendra and Tom will piggyback on some of it and have maybe different views too. But I was really impressed with our teamwork. I really was.
Kendra, can you just briefly describe what did it look like from a student standpoint, or?
From a student standpoint, and I thought what we did, and we really did do a great job, each of us taking a certain section, is we did everything from Google. We made a Google Doc, a calendar, and we had every day you could go in and you could make some choices and some links in there. And then we also had, I do the health piece to our PE. And so I had Google Classroom already set up throughout the year. So I had with the 4th and 5th graders. So they would use that too. And then we also, we were forced to do the video. It's been a couple months. My brain's not working right now. But we did video? Is that what it is?
Screencastify.
There we go.
Yep.
Screencastify.
Yep.
Which, I mean, that really stretched us. Like that was, I did not want to get in front of the camera and do videos, but what
It
are
was
you
great.
going to do? Especially when you know the kids need to see you.
Yeah.
It was a lot different than just throwing a PowerPoint out for the month. Tried to make it more personal for the kids.
Yeah.
I think
And
that's
I
a
would-
great word to use, Kendra. Is we really tried to make it more of a personal experience for the kiddos, even if it was a daily message or
Yep.
a video that one of you two made for an exercise or something. I think that's a good way to put it. It really was a personal experience for them.
It
How many-
was. And
Go ahead, Tom.
when we started going, we kind of came into a rhythm where Dan would do a weekly intro for that week, just saying hi to the kiddos and hoping that they're doing well. And here's what's on tap for this week. And just kind of a video check-in with the kids that they could watch. And then kind of reviewing the calendar, the activities that are on each day. And then Kendra and I did some videos. And I would say the same thing. Just the fact that once we kind of got on a roll and the kids could see us, and then on top of that, then we started jumping into all the teachers' Google Meets classroom meetings. And I mean, I started feeling like we were making even better relationships with some of these kids in that setting through the Google Meets with their teachers. And we weren't doing a whole lot of PE stuff. We were just talking to the kids and getting to know them, and they were asking us questions. And so I feel like once we got on a roll of them seeing us and us joining them, that it started really going well.
I think it also gave us when we jumped into their Google Meets, then we could promote PE,
Yes.
and check it out, do our virtual.
When you say jump into their Google Meets, is that jumping in the class with their classroom teacher?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I was just going to say we were able to do things on our staff meetings on Wednesday, like Dan pumped up our virtual field day week where we did some different activities every day that all the kiddos could do just in their home with materials that everyone has. We have great teachers that really buy into what we do and pumped it up with their kids and their kids' parents, and we had really good participation with it. So yeah, I think things really went well.
How many days a week do you normally see your students?
They get 150 minutes a week, and it depends on what rotation it is, but in average it's 150 minutes a week. Some classes we do see for an hour, so then it's a 30-minute block here or there. But in all said and done, it's 150 a week.
Okay, so when you did online, how many lessons were they expected to do per day or per week with you guys?
Well, so then per day we made a calendar. So technically a kid could actually work out every single day if they were wanting to stay on beat. So in the calendar, there was a series of 5 exercises, and then they were giving like a choice board. And the choice board was as far as they could follow along on a YouTube video, they could follow along on a fitness bingo type thing. And then we gave them a variety of lists of things they could do it. And we told them, and don't quit it there. Some of these kids are so bright that they're not even realizing they're exercising. And it could be as simple as, outside playing with mom and dad. We really focused on some of that. And that was each day. So some kids obviously might take a shorter cut doing it, but some kids might get more than that 30 minutes than they're usually getting. Our basic goal was just to get them active at least one sliver of that day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
So we stumbled across this, I guess what we called the 3 C's of good teaching. And it was connection, creativity, and content. And you kind of talked about that creativity piece with screencastifying the videos that you make and just stepping outside of your comfort zones. And let's shift gears and talk a little bit about content. And how did you choose what you're going to do for your lessons? I mean, did you go with more fitness type activities, just activity in general? Did you try to incorporate some of the standards like throwing and catching? How did you choose your content?
Well, to start, Tom and Kendra have a lot of experience, and their creativity is one of their strong points. So they kind of took charge of some of that. But I think as a team, we really tried to think of a lot of our school is it's a very diverse school. So we wanted to make sure that we were covering kids that might not have exercise equipment, might not have the means to find some of these trampolines, bikes, things like that. So we really tried to get it so that no matter what background, what piece of equipment you have access to, it doesn't matter what, you still can participate in it. And really part of being a team teacher that we are is the strengths, and I think we really played in the Tom and Kendra strength of getting that creative piece into there.
We pretty much stuck with what you could do at home. We didn't have our normal units for the spring, but we did more like fitness, what kids could do at home, because a lot of our kids don't have the equipment. From the health side, so I was also putting in part of the health pieces. I was trying to focus on taking what the kids needed at home at that moment in this time, like more internet safety, like more what do you do when you're home alone, bike safety, pool safety, and that sort of stuff. But as far as from the PE standpoint, it was more fitness and just in being active all the time. We really went away from units at that point.
Okay.
Some of the videos that Tom and Kendra made really focused on like that fitness, core strength, yoga stuff. They were great videos, and our kids, not only did they follow along with them, but it was great to see their faces too. And I think, like Kendra said, that was our focus, was just, and I think that leads from Tom's focus of really, let's get these kids active for the first 10 minutes of class, no matter when we see them or not. And then just kind of piggybacked on them is getting that physical activity first.
Did you guys do interactive stuff? So I guess tracking, I guess is the word I'm looking for. So you knew if kids were doing it, how often, how much, were they sending videos back to you of them doing it, or filling out Google forms, or how did you guys interact with students to know how much or how active they were?
We didn't do a whole lot of tracking, but we did get videos back. And then just also communicating with teachers and what their students were doing. But as far as tracking, it was really hard to do. I think if we do, going into the fall, I think if we do more of a Google Classroom, we'll be able to see who's in there and doing what, or we could, take a short little quiz. But I think in the position that we were in the spring, our admin really, they were just like, make it easy, make it easy, and I think that was all we were trying to do, is easy and active.
Do you have an idea of what percentage of students were regularly active? Or is it just guessing?
We have about 700 plus kids in our building, and I would, and Kendra and Tom help me out, I would say a consistent activity would be about 25%.
Yeah.
A moderate activity, probably 50.
Yeah. Okay.
I would agree with that.
I think those are strong. You think those
like
are
right
good
away?
numbers,
I thought 50. When when you want to hit a percentage, and from what I could get from feedback, and then even I'm seeing the Google Doc calendar and the little who was on it, about, yeah.
That seems pretty consistent with the numbers with teachers all across America and overseas too. It feels like that 20 to 35, I mean, up to 50% of kids you touched at some point, but the real consistent, would you say, Jamie, right in that area for elementary?
Yeah, it seems like about 50% of the kids accessed your material, and we never really were able to get a good grasp on like I saw Tom, I saw one of your ab workout videos, and Kendra, I saw one of your yoga videos. So they came across where there's about 50% of the kids access those videos, but we never were able to find a way to measure how active they were, what their engagement level was when they were watching those videos. So it's like about 50% accessed them. And when it came into turning assignments and stuff, that number drops significantly to under 20% of kids that would turn, like in a Google Classroom, turn in an assignment or reply, turn in a video or something like that. It really, really plummets. Ironically, though, in the high school level, it was actually really, really high.
Oh.
Well, in high school, don't they? My daughter took a couple of online PE classes, so she already was used to in those assignments.
And
So I would
didn't
say
pass if they didn't do it.
Yeah.
I would say I really feel like we were new to it, but we were building steam as we went, and towards the end, we were starting, especially in our virtual field day, we were starting to get all kinds of videos from the kids, and I feel like participation was going up and up and up.
Oh, that's good.
Familiar, we were joining the classrooms, the teachers were on board, the parents were starting to understand what was going on. I feel like if we had to keep going, that percentages would go up.
Okay.
So I think we're going the right direction.
I completely agree, Tom. And I think our district, once, and Jamie knows this, once we were able to get that approval to have Google Meets at the elementary level, that was huge for everybody, and especially for us, where us three could pop in with teachers at any type of group they had. And once we were able, and maybe we could have had better numbers participation wise if our district was offered that Google Meets from day one.
Yeah.
So to shift gears again, we found one of the most important things is the relationships piece, and you kind of touched on this already. I just want to take a few moments here and talk about how you, because we took it for granted last year. We were able to what we call ride the wave. We had relationships with the kids going into distance learning. If we start this year coming up, we've got to start off fresh. So just kind of touch on how you built those relationships or maintained relationships with the students in that distance learning environment.
Google Meets was nice with the classes because we have 700 kids. Mm-hmm. So getting their names is difficult, but then seeing their names, kind of seeing where they live, kind of helps you mentally connect with them. I think even us being in our own homes, kind of you connect a little bit more. They see you a little bit, your vulnerability, their vulnerability. And I think that helps us build relationships.
I agree 100%, Kendra. And to be able to meet with the kids, we have, like we said all the time, we have 700 kids, and we see at some point we see 90 kids at once, at multiple times throughout the day. So it's really hard to know a kid. I mean, to know a kid's exact name and match that face. And that Google Meets piece gives us that name on their screen picture as they're talking and stuff.
Helps.
It's great for us to say, great response. Where in class, we might not be able to say Zach's name, but later on we'll remember it's Zach. One thing that helps us too, with us three now that we're together as a team in year 2, and Tom and I are together in year 3, where a lot of times when we're meeting, most of them are going to have a sibling that we've had, or so when they pop and say hi, I think it's reassuring to that little guy or girl that we're friendly faces. We are there on their side. And I love that piece where you can say, hey, Billy, say hi to your brother or sister for us too. And I think that's a reassuring, positive piece that these kids need to hear too.
And now you can ask them about their dog or their pet
Right.
fish, or because
Yep.
I'm guessing
Oh.
you met a lot of dogs the past
Yeah.
month.
Cats.
Yep. Stuffed animals. Yep.
Yeah, stuffed animals and
Yep.
any crazy pets that you ran into, like a llama
No.
or
Oh,
No.
No.
you know, one of our jobs that, and I don't know if Jamie had the same piece. One of our jobs as specialists is that we volunteered to kind of touch base with some of our high needs kiddos in a specific Google Meets. So we really got to see some of the home life, some interesting stories. Really got to see them in a different setting, and it really opened your eyes to, you know, some of the positives and challenges that these kiddos
Yeah.
are facing. And that was, like Kendra said, that was a piece that I really enjoyed.
For the record, I did meet a llama.
You
You
did.
did.
Wow.
Wow.
No kidding. The student introduced it. Was like, this
That
is
has got to be the
awesome.
most bizarre.
So
You know, Jamie, here we are again. We're about to start up with distance learning again. A lot of people are, at least part-time in some districts. Those going hybrid are going to do some distance. Some districts are going completely distance learning again. And this time we are not quite caught off guard. We're just looking back and what did we learn? And if you look back listen back at our podcast, here we go again. Well, it comes up again, the relationships. You know, we did those surveys when we first started the podcast, where we asked teachers, we asked parents, we asked students, and it comes up in every conversation we have about how relationships are key. And these guys essentially said the same thing.
yeah, it was just fascinating listening how early on they recognized the importance of the kids seeing them, all three of them. And whether it was an introduction video for the week or activities, and they supplemented their lessons with stuff they found online, but they made it a point for the students to see them and maintain those valuable relationships that they developed throughout the course of the year.
Yeah, and it was interesting that while they had about the same numbers as most elementary teachers we talked to, as far as total number of participation, they seemed to be ramping up. They weren't losing steam. They were, you know, those relationships they were building were actually, you know, really creating a good head of steam.
Yeah, you know what I found interesting, just is, and why they're building steam, is they were building the skills, you know, whether it was with technology and different ideas and different things to try. And I just found that found that fascinating. How early on, you know, they played off each other's strengths. What are you good at? What's your interest? How can you, and then, you know, collaborated to produce great lessons that were meaningful and purposeful, meeting those standards, and then made it fun.
Yeah, and it kind of jumps out that they didn't just put up activities. I mean, we've talked about this before, where there's a difference between physical activity and physical education. And they really stuck to the physical education, and they seem to kind of be a case in point here that kids like physical education when it's time for FIAD. There's times when they should just be off on their own getting their 60 minutes of exercise every day, and they don't need to be hounded by a PE teacher. But they like to be educated physically. They like to be challenged. They like to be taught. And I think that is a big reason, in addition to the relationships that they built, the reason the kids kept their interest all the way through to the end.
So yeah, they had a successful distance learning experience, and those three key points that we talked about in the beginning really showed through how they played off each other's strengths, the growth mindset, and the collaboration.
Yep.
In this next section, we're going to chat about SEL, the social emotional learning, and the importance. It's already ingrained in our standards, but to really put the emphasis on that, and with 90 kids in the gym, they're going to chat about things that they've done and things that they hope to do. So let's take a listen.
Kendra, did I hear Jamie say earlier that you were somewhat involved with SEL a little bit, and you've done a little bit more of that in your classroom, or what's your? Did I hear that right, or is it somebody else that was?
Or the social emotional piece?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you know, I've taken the health part of our personal wellness. We're PW in the school district, And I think that's a huge piece of it, in getting to know the students. And so I worked on teaching them about stress, about their emotions, socializing, and all of those aspects.
And you incorporated that into PE, or more
Uh,
when you're doing the health?
no, more into health. I have my own little space that I take them for a half hour once every 6 days. And so each kiddo has health, once every 6 days.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
you also reinforce that in the gym, Kendra, at times
Oh, yeah.
when we're needing groups to just chill and calm down, and that's a huge benefit of being team teacher, where we have 3 teachers in the gym at times where Kendra or myself or Tom can reinforce some of those social skills and that have been demonstrated in health class. So that's the piece I do love about having three teachers in the gym,
Yeah.
is allow some modeling of better behavior.
And you're right. Like, we take that from the health and then we'll bring it in. I do a lot of breathing, and how do we get along with each other and all of that. And then these two will be like, what are you working on now? And then they totally bring it back into PE, which is actually, it's really cool, because now we'll take all 3 classes and we'll have them, just breathing for a minute.
Yeah.
Like, need to just take a break and focus.
Which is outstanding when it comes to transitioning 90 kids to the next spot.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool to see 90 kids sitting crisscross on the floor doing their breathing techniques, and you could hear a pin drop before.
Yeah.
And when they transition to the different directions they're going, I mean, it's effective. It really is. Mm-hmm. And Kendra does an awesome job with getting the kids calmed down with their breathing before we go anywhere.
That's a great
point. So she
point,
kind of sets it up with the language, so to speak, in health, and then they all have the same. Now you can use that same lingo, and just follow it right along. That's nice. Yeah. Okay.
That's a great point, though, Tom. It's something I want to try this year, was that sit down breathing thing, just to, because we have 2 classes to transition to their next special, and was always one of our most chaotic times. We have all this high energy going on in the gym. We just got done with an awesome game, and okay, it's time to go. And when they exit the gym, they go right past 2 5th grade classes.
And you probably have 2 classes at the door.
And 2 classes coming in.
Yep. And the side, the thing, you always obviously want to maximize their activity time when you have that 30 minutes. So you think, oh man, I don't want to cut them 2 minutes short, but I think the amount of behaviors that don't occur because of it makes it worth it.
Yeah.
We found with the breathing and the cool down, like they were saying, is that those classes that are waiting to come in, when they see the kids that are calm, they come in calm.
Yep.
When they're squirrely, they're coming in squirrely.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. Like, be a hot mess sometimes.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, let me throw this out at you 3, since you've kind of dabbled in it, at least, whether it's been an emphasis or not, I don't know. But I've got this thing that's been kind of eating at me for the last couple of years. I just been seeing and hearing more SEL, not just in PE, but all over education. And I just have this gut feeling that with cuts and all this, you even talked earlier today about, we might not be PE teachers in the, for trimester number 1. We might be, it's just like PE gets this lower, kind of gets knocked down. And my thought is, with SEL, PE is situated and stationed so well to be a leader in a building for that kind of training. Not just, we'll do it too, but I'm thinking if we as a profession can raise that level up and show what we do in class, and we become the trainers like you talked about, we're going to give them the language that they use in the classrooms, or we give them that. Now we're such an essential part of the educational team. There's, somebody talks about dropping PE and the teachers will go, you're going to have an uproar, rather than kind of like, we fight for ourselves. So with that setup, what do you think we could do even as a profession?
Yeah, and I am like, I'm getting excited as you're talking. I totally agree because
you're one of the few, Kendra. Oh wait, was that all loud?
Where's that the kombucha?
Yes. But if we really teach, if we really connect the mind and the body and how it works together, and we start teaching these kiddos at an earlier age, we can make our profession so much more valuable in life. And you talk about how we're getting knocked off, we're on the back burner right now, but with COVID, it's the population that has obesity problems that are dying. So it's like, it's just it's so backwards. But I totally think that if we can figure out how to help connect the mind and the body and get that learning in. And I don't know how you do it I think we're lucky at Carver because we have that half-hour piece where I can take them and help them with the language. But I don't know how you would do it if you don't have that out of room, out of the PE or out of the gym space.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, I think if we wind up, and I think this year could be an ideal time to introduce that language and to sell it because I think we are going to be in the classroom a bunch, whether it be helping or saying you can do PE, you're going to have your allotted half hour in the classroom. And I think that would be an ideal time to connect the mind and body with the kids. And hopefully in a lot of those cases, the teacher will be in the room as well. And when they too can see the gains and strides we're making with the kids, they'll go, whoa, this is good stuff. This is important stuff.
I think the area.
Maybe we need to promote it more too, because typically when we talk to teachers, we're usually talking about the kids that we're struggling with or the kids we're having challenges with. We got to, highlight more of what we're doing.
I think you find it's embedded in our standards and our activities that we do. We just haven't pulled it out of there yet with things like cooperation, problem solving, building trust, and communication. So our team building activities and those sort of games, where it just becomes, make that the learning target or the focus of that particular activity. And that's just something I've been kind of toying with here, trying to figure is, well, like Stacy said, is to highlight it or promote it so everybody's more aware of it.
I think if you find that the ability to find the problem or observe the problem and stop and redirect, reteach, and talk with the kids, and not, I know it's hard at times not to become assertive like the authority and yell and maybe raise your voice or anything, rather than bring them together and say, this isn't right. This isn't how we teach our friends. This isn't, and kind of model that. I think that goes a long ways too, and kind of teach in that moment and try to show, even if you think it's a waste of time, it isn't.
Yeah.
Some of these kids appreciate when you tell a certain kiddo, this isn't how we should treat our friends. This is a piece that we need to stay more positive about. And I really, really am a big believer that that's a huge part of our job, because when they when kids go home, they should say that gym is their favorite subject. They should. And I think especially us three take pride in that. And if they're not saying that, then we're not doing our job right. And just my opinion. They should be. And part of that, by them saying that, is we should provide them that positive experience that we can help change some mindsets.
Yeah.
And I think on a daily basis in Phi-Ed, we have so many opportunities to teach life lessons that have nothing to do with throwing mechanics or kicking a ball. I truly believe that stopping the class, like Dan said, and talking it through as a class, and if you can have, lots of times when you tell stories about your own kids or you as a kid, those kids are, they're all ears. They're listening. And those real life stories have an impact on them. And I think, at the end of the day, when these kids move on, I mean, I guess I care more about they're comfortable in their own skin and they learned something from me about life, some valuable life lessons. I would be more proud of that than if they learned how to throw a ball correctly, just to be honest with you. I mean, because I just think we got these kids and so many situations come up of cooperation, in terms of discipline, in terms of being disrespectful, in terms of cheating, all pushing physical stuff, and they're all life lessons. And I think it's a privilege to be able to stop the kids and talk them through it. And I think it means a lot to a lot of them. I think a lot of times that's what they go home and talk about at the dinner table.
I got to tell you, this is exactly why I love doing these interviews, because I just jotted a note down because it triggered something. How am I going to incorporate SEL in my gym at Clover? And it's just kind of what life lessons, but life lessons through that activity. So I could teach perseverance through throwing and catching, something along those lines. So that's why I love doing this, because just jotted myself a note down so I don't forget that.
Well, Jamie, we went as far as Tom would put a life lesson of the week on the board. I mean, we went as far as that. I mean, because
be a door holder.
Be a door holder.
We feel that strong of I hate always saying the clientele, the kiddos that we touch every day, we see every day. We feel that strong that that's probably, in the diverse kids we see, that probably is more important than if they can throw.
Absolutely, because
just being good kids.
We found in our research here at Thinking PE that kids basically won't do anything for you if they don't trust you, if you don't have a relationship for them. You can't teach them throwing and catching if you don't have a relationship.
Right.
Because if you have that relationship with them, they will. Somebody said they'll run through a wall for you. So, case in point, when you spend the time to learn about the kids and take interest in the kids, they respond to that. Okay, Stacy, deep breath in. Let it out soft. Deep breath in. Let it out soft. One thing I really took away from that session on social emotional learning, the SEL, a technique that I like to try is that breathing technique. I mean, I figure if they can transition, they've got 90 kids coming in and 90 kids going out. So just the sheer volume of kids. And if that's something they're utilizing to calm those kids down to respectfully transition in the hallway, I'm thinking that's something I may want to try.
Yes, I agree. And I added that last year before COVID, was something my wife kind of challenged me with, and because I was struggling with kids lining up at the door. I was just always getting frustrated with the kids and short with them. And then she mentioned kind of this breathing type of a thing. And so I coined the gym breath in my elementary school. And we just take this couple of big breaths at the end and make a big deal about it. But it just calms and relaxes. The number of teachers that I got that commented on, oh, it's so nice. Because number one, then they know I'm done with them. That's the last thing we do. And then they can take them. Yeah. And they're calm in the hallway. They don't have to be calming the kids because they're already calm. It's amazing what 2-3 just deep breaths will do just to calm the body.
And also to kind of define social emotional learning and how it applies to physical education. We keep saying that it's embedded in our standards, and it's things like cooperation, problem solving, trust, perseverance, communication. Those are all tied to social emotional learning. And what I found fascinating was how, Kendra teaches some of that language in her health class, and then they apply that stuff into the gym. And I just think that that's a great collaboration on their part, and just shows how great of a team they are.
Yeah. And it might not apply to all of us because not all of us have a health teacher that's teaching that stuff and then bringing it over. But if you don't yet in your building, you probably will in the next 3 years have a SEL curriculum that your building is using. That'd just be my guess. It's just, I see it coming, and schools are going to implement this. And then that's being taught in the class. And if we can tap in and know what lessons they're being taught in class, we can then, again, use that same language and really reinforce those lessons they're learning. And I think you just said it, it was off air, but I like how you said it, is you said as PE teachers, because we see every kid. You remember what you were saying there?
As physical educators, we see every single kid in the school, K through 5, that we can set the culture for the school, or we can complement the culture for the school.
I love that phrase.
We have that big of an impact seeing all the kids throughout the building. So the stuff that we do in the gym, and like I say, we can set the culture for the school, or we can complement the existing culture.
Yeah. So if they're teaching an SEL curriculum, if we know what they're teaching, we can reinforce that and complement it as you say. I love the phrase. I love how you phrase that.
You know, and Kendra said it makes our profession that much more valuable when we have that big of an impact, and complement the school, the school's vision of social and emotional learning. It just makes us that much more valuable.
Yeah, we won't be on the cutting block when the budget's cut. The budget's cut comes. So.
Yeah, one would hope. One would definitely hope.
Yeah, because there'll be an uproar, hopefully, that from the community, that this is even from kids that have gone through the system, even 10, 15 years from now, they'll go, no. I didn't just learn throwing in gym class. That's where I learned to control my emotions. That's where I learned, and maybe even through the next generation, they'll be even stronger advocates for us, because they won't see this as just a skills class type of a thing. They'll see how important it was for all of their whole learning throughout the day.
Yeah, and like I said, teaching that perseverance through throwing there, or there's just so many different avenues that it can go.
Yeah.
In the next section, we're going to talk about the hashtag 6 feet PE, and this is I mean, among many of the reasons we brought this group on, but we have 90 kids in the gym, and now we have to teach physical education while respecting social distancing. And I think it's just amazing the growth mindset that comes through here, and some fascinating ideas on hashtag 6 feet PE. So let's go ahead and take a listen. All right, two things that really throughout the course of our conversation here that has come out is, number one, your collaboration, and number two, your growth mindset. And it just came out there, Dan, when you said now is the time. And as we tiptoe into the fall here, we're not quite sure what school is going to look like, but we're pretty sure it's going to be some sort of distance learning aspect, some sort of face-to-face. And in that face-to-face, we're looking at possibly the idea of teaching physical education while respecting social distancing, and what we call hashtag 6 feet PE. So if I just get your initial thoughts on, with 90 kids, because people are stressing out with half a class in a gym, and how do you plan to approach the beginning of the school year with 90 kids and potentially respecting social distancing?
First of all, I'm going to pray it doesn't rain ever.
Yeah.
We're lucky. Not only do we have a gym that can usually hold 80 to 90 kids, but we have an outdoor facility that's fantastic. But if it rains, we're going to have to really take advantage of the collaboration of us three to come up with some really creative lesson plans that we can keep kiddos. And I don't know how it's going to work. To keep them off each other, at 6 feet.
I envision a lot of poly spots.
Yeah, that's what.
That we might have to buy some more hula hoops.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
Right.
what I kind of envision, if we go to them, or they come to the gym, I do envision, I mean, kind of no different than little kids that come to you and you have to teach them about personal space. But the same kind of thing, using hoops and poly spots or whatever. But I love the fitness aspect of Phi-Ed. And I think, that's what I envision, without tag games and being too close and touching and sharing equipment, is a lot of fitness and how to make videos, how to make fitness fun. That's kind of where my mind is going, is that when I do see these kids, I want to do a lot of fun and innovative fitness things with them to effectively use the time, to keep them distanced, and to make their time valuable and beneficial. And I think, so I've been thinking a lot along the lines of fitness, because I think that's going to be a
I
huge
think
part of
easy
it.
to keep them in their own space, you mean?
Yeah. Yep.
And I think now is the time to piggyback on you, Tom, is that we could implement more technology into that curriculum where we're using more of these wonderful fitness videos that are out there.
Yep.
Some of the great the dance type stuff. Some of this stuff that we can take advantage of our technology that we have access to in our gym. That would be a good tool, I think, to keep them in their hashtag 6 feet.
But I mean, even what Dan just said when he talked about just dance, and I was thinking about Jamie's would you rathers, and I'm thinking about how much we've already learned from collaborating with each other. That, I mean, you could kind of look at some of this as a kind of a cool challenge of working together and getting creative, and look at how much we came up with already, and I'm sure we'll make it work.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I think, in my personal opinion, is it teaches like classroom management. If you've struggled with classroom management in a regular setting, you're going to struggle in distance learning, and you're going to struggle with classroom management in 6 feet PE. If you've had good classroom management and good collaboration, like the three of you, then when this new challenge comes up, you'll find creative ways to make it awesome.
We're gonna do Wednesday evenings. We're gonna do a Zoom meeting like this, but open it up to any PE teachers in the world.
Oh, cool.
That can
Oh,
come
that
at
is
that
cool.
time, and then we're gonna record it and then edit it down and put it out as a podcast. And there's some of those we did back in June, kind of like, we have no idea what's coming, but we got to talk about this anyway, you know. So
Yeah.
some people said we took July off, but then we're going to do Wednesday evening, I think about 8 p.m.
Oh, that's awesome.
Maybe we can get you the link, but yeah, it'd be great if you join in. It just gets your brain going that way, and
Yeah.
It's
and hear other
fantastic.
teachers, and
It was actually pretty fantastic from our perspective, just because we would get 30 people on these Zooms and talk about, okay, you can't share equipment, you have to stay 6 feet apart. How are you going to teach throwing and catching? And you just see the stress levels, and it can't be done. And after everybody got that out of their system, then all of a sudden somebody would toss out an idea, and then that would just explode into I play this cool game. How can we adjust? How can I still play this cool activity, a cool game that we play, and follow those social distancing rules. So
Fun to reflect on how we did for distance learning, because I think when you're in the midst of it, you get kind of dragged down, and it was so depressing and isolated. It was like, oh my gosh, we did actually pull it together and do a good job.
real quick, at Life, I work out at Lifetime, and with this whole idea of 6 feet PE and social distancing, we're at the outdoor pool, and I was watching, they have the water slide, and they have a lifeguard on top, and they have a lifeguard on the bottom, and they have a whole line of kids going up the ladder. But they have not the poly spots, but they have tape on the steps to keep the kids 6 feet apart. And as I'm sitting there watching my boy go up and down the slide, I'm watching a group of 40 random kids practice social distancing without any adult intervention, just because of the little tape on the steps. And what's interesting is when you got to the bottom of the steps where there's no tape, they're all bunched together. But once they had that visual, then they were and they were helping each other out. Older kids were helping young kids, and young kids were doing it on their own. And there was no adult intervention support. They were just waiting their turn.
Yeah.
That's nice.
So it gave me a fresh feeling that it can be done. It's set up with like Tom said, with poly spots and routines.
Yeah.
With that, I want to thank Tom, Kendra, and Dan again on behalf of Think of PE here. The three of you are awesome collaborators. You come from a unique situation in that you have basically 90 kids in your gym, and awesome collaboration, awesome growth mindset, and it was just a pleasure picking your brains and digging deeper into what makes great teachers great.
Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Jamie, I really like the point that was made about having to teach expectations. You teach to kindergartners, you have to walk them through the routine. Here's where you sit. Here's how we line. This is, some kindergartners, you have to, if they're really young, you have to teach them what a line is. They've never walked in a line before, and you teach. You just back it up. You back it up a level. If they don't understand, you back it down, and then if they don't get it, you reteach. And so now we have fifth graders that 6 feet away, and these new things that we're going to have to do, we just break it down, and then you teach it. And then it's kind of like the PBIS model, where if it's not working, then you just reteach it. You don't get mad at them. You don't get angry. You just break it down again and reteach it in a different way. And it just feels like, yeah, we're the teachers here. We're professionals. These are kids. We can teach them the things that we need to teach them to run a school building in what the expectations are.
I really like that, how you identify just that, that calm model of reteaching versus redirecting, instant redirection. Kids out of line, instant redirection. And I just think that's going to create that negative atmosphere where just simply, fall back on it, reteach it, revisit it. And we just got done talking about social emotional learning and the importance of the student's social emotional needs. And I just think that's another part of building a relationship with a student is when you get into their social needs and identify what those needs are and have a genuine interest in helping them with their social emotional needs. Now you've captured that student. So now when you go to teach throwing or something, you have their attention.
Yeah, and they're happy to learn from you. They're eager to learn from you because you've invested in them, and it's just a nice dance that works really well. So, usually when we come towards the end of these interviews and stuff, we usually try to think back and think, well, what did we gain? What did we learn? As you think back over this interview, what do you think we've gained today? What did we learn?
I gotta tell you, it came down to three things for me. What we learned from Dan, Kendra, and Tom is you rely on each other's strengths, you have a growth mindset, and awesome collaboration, and that will enable you to overcome any challenge that's thrown at you, including distance learning or hashtag 6 feet PE with 90 kiddos.
And that is Thinking PE.
Connect with us on Facebook and Twitter at Thinking PE. Find us on all your favorite podcast providers by searching Thinking PE. For more resources and videos, go to www.thinkingpe.com. Thanks for listening.